Greetings, humans. I'm George, and welcome back to the Windmill Full of Corpses. And today I'm joined by a fairly monumental guitarist and a fairly monumental singer, Andy and Browne from Monuments. And that terrible pun was very much intended. Thank you guys for joining me. How are you guys?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great that we're finally able to do this. So yeah, how are you? How are you all feeling to finally have In Stasis out? Are you all in Stasis?
Pretty stoked to have it out. I'll tell you what, though, right now, both me and Andy are sick with two different things.
Feeling a little off Stasis.
Yeah, off. In fact, Stasis is probably better, actually.
I guess however you want to interpret it. My throat hurts. but
no, otherwise, yeah.
We're stoked that the album's out and very excited and happy with the response so far.
Yeah. Well, it's a great record. I've been jamming it quite a lot since it's been out myself. So
thanks, George.
Really great work on that one. We will be getting into the Monuments business very soon, but first I would like to ask you about Mick Gordon, because on this channel we've done a lot of Doom reactions and actually found Mick through this channel. So it's a big selling point to all of those people. So I've seen the YouTube conversations that you did with Mick and with Mick and Mike a while back, and there was a lot of interesting stuff in there. But I guess what's not immediately obvious to the average non-professional metalhead like me is what exactly was Mick's contribution? What can we actually hear on the album that was his input?
Pretty much the entire album.
Well, that's a gross overstatement.
But what I mean by that is you can hear Mick Gordon pretty much throughout the entirety of it. The thing about Mick, though, is his work it's always there to complement what's already there, not to overshadow it. So when, people are like, where's Mick Gordon? It's like, he's right there. It's just that it's so well done that it's kind of almost like reverb, reverb on a vocalist's vocal. Mm-hmm. When it's good reverb, you don't really hear it, you feel it.
Yes.
And if we sent everyone the 2 mix of what Mick sent us, it's crazy. Like in some of the tracks, there's 80 different audio tracks for one of the tracks. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say you could hear a lot of Mick. I don't know what he's talking about. There's lots of crazy arpeggios backing the riffs. He does a lot of synth pads that sort of outline the root notes of a lot of the riffs. He does vocal effects that supplement my harmonies and stuff like that. And a lot of the intros and outros, pretty much all of them except for one, that was all Mick Gordon too. And then also he helped us write the album from the ground up, because we were all in a Discord group from the beginning, sending files and ideas back and forth. He would have some note and structural changes or ideas for us, and we bounced those off of him. So he's all over the album.
And he also did a little bit more than that too. Like there's a lot of the songs he actually followed the guitar with a pretty disgusting sounding synth. And if you take that synth away, you can really tell. But obviously, if you haven't heard it without the synth, then it sounds like a guitar. But take that away and it adds a lot to that guitar sound.
Okay, so 2 things to add on. I actually can hear the synths. I didn't know if that was really his work, but it does sound a little bit doomy. And it does make sense that you said that he knows how to complement things, because that's his job in a sense with soundtracks. He's doing something that has to already complement a different centerpiece. So
exactly, like throughout the record, there's many different types of sounds, and every single sound has been thought about. He's trying not to interfere with what's already there.
Okay, well, I can feel that everything works together so smooth. But to move away from Mick now, I think what some of us gent fans online were fantasizing and having wet dreams about was that he would actually be the second guitar for Monuments, which obviously didn't happen. So now, since Ollie departed, how have you had to adapt to be a 1-guitar band, and what challenges did that bring to the table?
I didn't really have to change anything, honestly.
Okay.
Like for the most part, we were playing 99% the same thing in a live situation anyway. So, we would mostly focus on the rhythm aspect of the songs. that's what Monuments is generally about, rhythm, you know. The only thing that's become different is the fact that I am now running through more amps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then,
I mean, that's a live standpoint, but I think from a record standpoint, it was a lot different because it was just Browne writing the guitar parts and it wasn't bouncing riffs off of Ollie.
That only happened for album 3 though.
He didn't do anything on Amanuensis?
On Amanuensis, there was 2 riffs.
Some solos, right?
No, 2 riffs.
Oh.
And then on Gnosis, that was completed before he joined.
Well, there you go.
So the process for me wasn't that different. The only thing that is really different is live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just live, trying to make it sound like it's got that 2 guitar feel. And the reason that I say that is because obviously when you're playing rhythms in a metal band, it's generally left and right. And you're trying to recreate that big sound of 2 live because more is more, right?
Yes, I can agree with that.
But yeah, other than that, I think the process, it was fairly similar. Mike had quite a bit more involvement on this record as well because of that, I think.
Yeah, Mike actually wrote some guitars too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right. So then to build up also and get into the vocals, to the average listener, when listening to the grooves and instrumental soundscape of Monuments, and when I say the average listener, I mean me, it sounds like they're specifically made to make a vocalist's job really hard. So Andy, how do you feel about that? And what's the key to navigating this sort of soundscape with a vocal line and make it flow together?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first of all, a good thing to keep in mind about Monuments is that everything is in 4/4, even if it sounds like it's not. And it often does sound like it's not. So I just count a lot of the time and to remember, when it turns around. But I don't know, with interesting and creative riffs come interesting and creative approaches to the vocals. So it does require me to think outside the box a little bit more in a lot of situations. But if I just sort of put my nose to the grindstone and iron something out, and I meticulously do it, I spend like False Providence and stuff. The chorus definitely took some thinking, or the verse of Cardinal Red. But it gives me a unique opportunity to do something that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do. The riffs really influence the way I write vocals. So it's a challenge, but I don't know. A lot of it did feel natural. A lot of the choruses felt like chorusy, and I knew what to do there. But yeah, just some growing pains that I was able to iron out.
The good thing about this record as well is that we were able to then change the music once the vocals had actually been written, which is something we've not been able to do on previous albums.
Right. Yeah.
So we were actually able to, if Andy said, all right, I'm hearing this note, and as an example of this, the Cardinal Red chorus, which then went down this weird harmonic path after this note was presented. So yeah, that's also why we were able to make it fit together a lot better on this album, just from that we were able to bounce like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really nice. And from a vocal perspective, you actually mentioned my favorite vocal parts from the album, Cardinal Red and False Providence, especially on the chorus. So
thanks.
So then to also touch on the lyrics, since we're talking vocals, how does the music tell you what to write about?
Well, actually, a lot of times Browne has a concept in mind that he writes his riffs about. If you can sort of, wrap your head around a guitarist standpoint of interpreting feelings through riffs. So he'll tell me a lot of the times he'll tell me what he was feeling, and that gives me a jumping off point. Or I just listen to his stuff and I think about how it makes me feel. And I don't know, there's something about the nature of the sound that I can attribute a real life experience to a lot of the time. Certain ideas work better over certain moods. So yeah, I just sort of feel it out with Browne, and we bounced some lyrical ideas back and forth too. He wrote some lyrics for a couple songs. You know, he had some input for Collapse and In the Sumerian that I built upon. So yeah, it was a pretty synergetic process.
I think it's also worthwhile mentioning that when I come to Andy with an idea on what something might be about, I try to keep it as brief as possible, because I think that the interpretation is better coming from the vocalist's point of view rather than trying to taint something that they might not be able to relate to. But often or not, the things that I write about, I think that most people could relate to from a different scenario or situation that they've been through themselves. Yeah, so that's kind of why I'm always brief about it.
Yeah. He gives me enough that I can jump off of and interpret it in my own way. So it's not constricting, but it's still like I would prefer to have something to build from than to start from scratch. So it lets me do that.
Okay, I think I can feel that. So a lot of how I perceive Monuments is very much a sensory experience, all the way down to the stripped down groove, and then when you add some harmony to it, it already creates a mood. So I can feel where you're coming from. Right. Now I'm gonna go into a bit of gear nerding and stuff. So going back to what I saw on YouTube with Mick, he was describing the mix in a song like this space where you have to fit elements and they all need to fit together. So how do you navigate that when songwriting? Do you have to keep in mind the mix and how something will be able to fit in the mix when you're writing ideas for a song?
Yes and no. And I know that's a really weird answer to say that, but in fact, there's actually a point where this happened actually in the chorus of False Providence. In fact, it's the chorus, might be the chorus of False Providence and also the chorus of Cimmerian. And both of them have lead parts happening underneath the rhythm tracks as well as the vocal main melody. Now, those lead parts are quite vocal in their approach when you listen to them. So trying to make that not interfere with what was going to happen vocally can be quite difficult. So, when it came to George doing the mix, I did say if there was anything that was going to interfere to just get rid of it, especially for parts like that. But I think he did a good job on making them fit where it didn't. And I think when it's stuff like that, even trying things on different instruments, like with the guitar, it kind of occupies the same space as the vocal in terms of its sonic timbre, that it's a mid-range instrument like vocals. So if in a situation like that, I would try putting that on something different. And I know that Mick did follow quite a lot of the guitar parts with different sounding timbres. So I knew that particular element was going to be in there if the guitar got taken away, apart from one point.
Yeah. For me, it's just like I put everything that I want to put into the song and then figure it out later.
Yeah.
Usually I'm just like, we'll make it fit. Or
trial and error.
Yeah.
It's better to have too many options than not enough.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's not. Maybe that makes what makes the music so dense.
Okay, I actually can fill in on that, because this is part of what I really like about your sound. It's always dense and compact and kind of flooring you with this wall of sound, but it's never overbearing. Like I don't feel like I can't follow along with the music.
Yeah, you can thank George Lever for that. His mixing really preserved everything that's happening. In the past, I feel like our mixes have been kind of busy and brick walled out a bit. And it's like, what's going on? But George really did an excellent job of making everything properly fit. And it doesn't sound like you're being assaulted in the ears. It's like, oh, cool, nice.
Yeah, exactly. That grooving sort of laid back feeling that can come along the savage riffs. I like that. Okay, so since we're talking gear, you've actually also in that, I'm filling up a lot on that because that was all the research I did for this interview.
Sure.
You were also showing a bunch of guitars and talking guitars, which does lead me to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how gear nerds are you, and how important do you think that is in the way your sound turns out?
I would say I'm definitely a gear nerd, but I think in a weird way I prefer simplicity when it comes to gear. So I know that there's all these amps on the wall, right? Loads. Wait a minute, stop shaking your head. you see all these amps on the wall, right? And that's because I prefer to sit there with only 6 knobs on a channel, and I'll know really quickly if that's what I want. But the moment I have like a modeler or an Axe-Fx or something like that in front of me, it's almost overbearing because there's too many options. You know, who wants to choose from 3,000 cabs? Do you know what I mean? I know that I can plug an amp into a Mesa cab, and I know the Mesa cab's good. So if the amp doesn't sound good, then generally that amp is probably not what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I've got 3,000 IRs of a Mesa cab that's been mic'd up terribly by 2,999 of them, then I've got to go through all of those to find the one that sounds good. And yeah, I think that I prefer just plugging into an amp and the simplistic thing of that, because then I spend more time actually writing music rather than wondering, dude, this tone's fat, man.
Yeah. You know? So when you're looking for something specific, but you have a ton of options, then most of them are irrelevant.
Exactly. Yeah. There's option paralysis. So I think having like each of these amps kind of has a different flavor to it. Like the 5150 there, you know, pretty much any guitar player would be able to tell you what that sounded like. They'll be able to give you a list of albums that it's used on, everything from Machine Head, you know, popularized by Colin Richardson with a TS tube screamer during the early 90s or early 2000s. But yeah, when it comes to actually experimenting with different sounds, if you're on an Axe-Fx and by the time you've got to the third option, you've already forgotten what the first option sounds like. So you can't really comment on if it sounds good or not. So I prefer to have smaller amount of options, but good options. So that's kind of why I have amps. And in reality, 20 amps isn't that much.
I mean, wow, I guess it depends on the amount of...
Compared to the 30,000 that are in the Axe-Fx, it's nothing. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
Except they're actually there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So further on, I want to talk live shows because I've seen you guys live twice. Once all the way back in the Phronesis tour and once before the pandemic. Once Andy was also in the band. So one of my criteria for a good live show is if you stink when it's done, it was a good live show. And you guys always make me stink. So
thanks, man.
Do you keep in mind the live energy when you're writing, or do you just write and then curse yourself when you have to transfer that into a live setting?
Man, I don't know. I actually just try to make the sickest music that I can. I feel like if it's awesome, it's going to be cool live. So I'm not really being like, all right, let's make this part so everyone can jump. Like it'll happen, you know, if the songs are dope and we all love a good breakdown or whatever. And then when we see the live response, it's like a cool surprise. And then I can play off. I know which parts I can lean into more.
Yeah. Generally, I don't think about that stuff at all. Like if a breakdown comes up, I'm like, that's going to be cool live after it's written, rather than actually thinking, right, that's the slam bit. That's the bit where everyone's going to two-step. That's the bit where people are going to run into each other. Don't think about it like that. I know some bands do, and that's completely fine if that's how they want to write. Obviously, it's worked for them, but for me, it's just like, what is the best thing that we can create in the time that we have? And hopefully we did a good job of that.
I think you did. I think you did.
Thanks,
because you guys are very, very captivating to see live, but you're also very captivating to listen to. And I've seen bands that I really loved live, but then couldn't enjoy on studio. And Monument is not guilty of that. So
bless you, dude. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. I think that some bands just don't translate when it comes either going from an album to live, or they sound better live than they did on the CD. And I think that happens with a lot of bands, actually, a lot more than, especially when it comes to bands that just thrive when they're playing together, but then record their album not playing together. I've seen that. In fact, there's one band in particular that's coming to mind that I absolutely love in a live situation, but I don't really listen to on CD. A band called Cult of Luna.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I love the band, but I generally just don't listen to them on CD. But live, I'll go and see them and watch them and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. I'm in the same situation with Leprous, and I hope that won't get me banned off the internet.
Oh man.
Do you like them live?
Yes. I've seen them live a number of times, and they sound incredible live. But I think the sort of energy that comes live is sort of lacking in the studio version.
Might also be that they've chosen the wrong producer. Like, maybe they're still trying to find the right one, if that's the case.
Okay, so one thing that's been the case with the new album, and I haven't seen in the past, is that you took the time to film actual music videos with the actual band in it. So what is it about in Stasis that suddenly made you realize that you're a bunch of sexy superstars with a face for the internet?
Me and Andy had arguments about this.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pushing for it. I was like, dude, listen, like, people want to see us. They want to see the faces of the band and not just like tell a narrative with actors, which we also have. But I feel like the In Stasis cycle and all of this stuff was kind of like a rebirth a bit for the band, and we were trying to reinvent ourselves. So I wanted to put us front and center and do all the stuff that I would want to see from a band as a fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, with previous albums, our video budget was significantly lower than what was given to us for this album. So, and often on previous albums, because our budget was lower on the albums in general, we generally ate into the video budget for the actual production of the record, which then meant we couldn't do a video. So, between what we actually haven't had a proper music video on a record since Gnosis.
Yeah, what was the
Animus was the first proper video we did since Gnosis. Mm-hmm. So that's 2 records without a proper video.
Yeah, I've noticed everything in the past is either live footage or lyric videos.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
No money.
So, yeah, I actually did think if you would have rather instead just bought more amps.
No, I literally told Browne, I was like, dude, I will pay out of pocket to make these videos happen. And I actually did. I paid.
Yeah, so did I, man.
We all did. Yeah. We made it work because I think I convinced the boys that it was important and it was going to be a good investment. So, yeah, I'm really happy that we were able to do that.
The thing with the videos as well, this time we actually filmed them at the same time. So we actually did a bit of ahead planning on what the singles were going to be. So that's a position that we've not really found ourselves in before, where we actually made the decision on what the singles were going to be early enough, basically. Yeah, so Makeshift Harmony was filmed the day after the Cardinal Red video was filmed.
Same studio. We just came back the next day.
And then I think a week after that, the False Providence video was started.
Right. But that was
not us in it, which would be my preference.
Right. Mm-hmm. We had a little bit of both. We had 2 videos without us, 2 videos with us, and we might have one more on the way.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll look out for that one. Well, I'm with Andy on this one. I like videos, and especially the ones where you can see the band play.
Yeah,
not because they're sexy, which I'm not saying you're not, but because I love to see you work your magic. So
that's fine.
I mean, Browne, you literally look like a fucking final Dark Souls boss.
But I don't like my face.
So. Well, you can't see it now.
So I prefer it for someone else's more beautiful face to be in it than mine.
But the fans, they want to see your beautiful mug, bro.
Yeah.
And you want to see quick fingers.
Yeah, and Browne's all that stuff.
That is very satisfying to look at. Okay. Appreciate it. So we've talked music, we've talked videos, we've talked production, we've talked concept. Let's kind of put all that together, specifically music and concept. Is there can In Stasis be thought of as a concept album, and is there like an overarching theme to it that we can find? Because I have some ideas, but I'm not going to dare say without hearing from the geniuses first.
I think you should say what you think it is, and then we'll explain it.
Okay. Well, to me, it seems, okay, there's this lyric in Cardinal Red that I think sums it best, which says, slaves to the irrational with fear as your compass. So this is this sort of disconnect from reality and acting on impulse. And that to me is stasis. It's this state of, being in disconnect. And the songs seem to explore different themes of that.
Exactly. I mean, you're very close. Basically, it's about being at war with yourself or stuck in the middle of a power struggle. Third state suggests balance and equilibrium. And to get there, you got to go through a fight between, it could be life and death, or maybe, the power struggle of a relationship or empires rising and falling, like in Collapse. So every single song attacks the theme of balance and being stuck in the middle of a war, essentially, but in different ways, personal struggles or on a grand scheme, humanity and civilization, religion, etc.
False providence is religion, right?
Yeah, definitely. That was personal for me because I grew up around religion, and it's sort of, I felt like I was at war with my true self. So I wanted to apply those themes in a more broad way and not just be like me, my experience. I'm trying to do a thing where it is about my experience, but also about other people's experiences.
Cardinal Red's also a bit about religion as well, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Cardinal Red as well. But that's more of like fighting with the authoritative powers of the church or whatever. Yeah. And then false providence is more like, do I believe in this? Is this right for me? Or has it all been a sham? And have the wool pulled over my eyes, and etc. And then makeshift is like, a toxic relationship struggle, etc. You get the idea.
Yeah, I get the idea. And I'm definitely with you because, so I heard you say this before. I don't remember where online, where Browne, you said when you write music, you write it as if you're explaining something. And then Andy, you articulate that into words. So I definitely relate to that because if most of the things that I had to learn in life, I would have explained via gent, I would be a lot more eager to learn.
Totally. It's like a way to trick our metalheads into learning.
Yes. I mean, the greatest wisdom always comes from gent and prompt.
But I don't want to say learning because we're not teaching anything education. We're just trying to tell our truth or whatever the pretentious shit.
Yeah. No, I guess it's like, for me, I can't, if I'm not pissed off about something, I can't write music.
I'm the same way. I don't write about stuff that makes me happy. I write to get it out. I'm bitching about stuff. Like
I can't trust anyone that can write music. I don't trust him.
You don't trust Pharrell?
No, I don't trust him. Don't trust him. Anyone that can write music where they're happy, don't trust him.
Yeah. Well, it's a necessity for me. It's not like I got all this stuff, let me brag about it. It's like, I'm in pain and I want you to listen to me complain because I'll feel better.
That's actually kind of what it is, isn't it?
Because I mean, in a very cynical approach to it, it's like, I don't want to come off as like a moaning, whining
Oh, you already do.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't think you did.
Basically, thank you, George. Basically, music's a good way for me to complain without it being. I don't know. It's like an excuse. That's how I say it.
I don't see it as complaining though. It's almost like
I'm complaining.
I wouldn't say you were. I mean, your Nexus isn't complaining, is it?
My Nexus.
But
yeah, or just like speaking out about what I think are.
It's like, I think that a good analogy of this is if you stand on the street with a megaphone trying to preach about Jesus, most people will just walk straight past you.
Yes.
But if you do it in a way that you say something that's bothering you, then maybe it might resonate with someone if you do it through
music.
Methods.
If it's a medium that they can connect with, your words are a lot more powerful.
Yeah.
Not that we're preaching about Jesus on a record.
Yeah. No. Of course not. No. I mean.
Yeah, but you've articulated exactly what it is to me. And speaking of complaining, to me, it doesn't sound like complaining. It sounds like confronting. That's why it's.
Thanks, man. That's just my self-deprecation coming.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Oh, you sound like all my friends.
Every single day.
Okay.
Me too, though.
Yeah, we're both imposter syndrome guys, which is what Arc Essence is about.
I thought that too.
Yep.
I didn't think imposter syndrome specifically, but more like not fitting in with an environment that actually tells you you're fitting in. So, okay, that's actually imposter syndrome.
It's like, am I worthwhile? I believe the pre-pro name was Imposter, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and the reason why that didn't stick with me because it's a terrible movie.
Well, I just thought we needed something less on the nose.
Yeah, exactly. But also, have you seen the film Imposter with who's that guy what's his name? He's in Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks, and he's like the fourth actor down, never really had a main role.
I don't remember. I've only seen that movie once.
Gary Sinise.
Sure.
Gary, I can't remember his last name. Anyway, this movie, The Imposter, with him in it, it is terrible. And every single time I saw that word, it reminded me of that terrible movie. So we obviously had to change it.
Okay.
Yes.
I actually don't know that movie, but based on review,
fun fact, I guess.
Based on that review, I will not be looking further into it. Right. I have just two more.
That's smart.
Go ahead, George.
That's smart. Go ahead anyway.
I have just two more, and these should be easier. Another one for Andy, which is that I heard your album with Nick Nocturnal with Termina, and I thought that was really sick, but not as sick as Monuments. So which one do you think is sicker?
Oh, man. I already said it, but they both are sick in their own way, but I would be lying if I said I didn't feel more at home with Monuments. I think with Termina, I'm trying to write something supernatural that might not even be able to be replicated live. It's like, how extreme can I go? And I think that's really fun. But Monuments is more for my soul and being myself. And, it's stuff that I do want to perform live and have it be more relatable and practical.
It's still stressful, though.
Play
this stuff live.
Yeah, it's not easy. But we always do that to ourselves.
Yeah. Yes, we do. It's going to be really fun in 10 years when we get older.
God, I'm already starting to.
Well, you can always adapt, like write new stuff that's easier.
Yeah, sure. But who wants to do that?
Well, not now, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have just one left to close it, and this one is one that's really important to me and one that I'm emotionally invested in, so answer carefully.
All right.
Why, in the name of all that is holy, or unholy for that matter, do all Monuments album titles end in sis?
Okay, right. Okay.
I do it.
So the first album, let's just go back and show you the naming system. Okay. So the first album was initially named by Swanee. Gnosis. Yeah, Swanee, our bass player, named the first two albums, actually.
Okay.
So technically the first three albums, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Gnosis, I basically said to Swanee, what what can you make of this sentence? Make a word for it. Which was like a higher level of understanding, basically. So then he came back and he's like, what about gnosis? Which obviously is a higher level of spiritual understanding, blah, blah, blah. So then it gets to the second album, and I'm like, all right, we're doing something on the samsara cycle. And Swanee said, what about the amanuensis? It's almost like the script writer, It's basically a posh word for secretary. So now we're on the second album.
Cloud Atlas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It comes from the film. That particular word is in the film Cloud Atlas. I think that's actually where he got it from, to be honest.
And at that point, the theme was set. It was like, okay, we got two cis. Well, this is what I was told, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. So then at that point, 2 albums ended in cis. So you go to the third album, it's like, phronesis. Yeah.
Now it's their thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Literally at this point, it's more of a joke at this point now.
I think it's like half a joke, but also half just a defining little characteristic of the band that I enjoy and other people hopefully do too. I don't know if we'll ever break the cis streak. We might, but
we've actually got at least another 4 albums worth of cis.
Maybe we do. Maybe he's just saying shit.
I'm just saying shit. No, there is actually ideas for 3 albums worth.
We've talked about some stuff.
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
but also the Greeks, man, like the ancient Greeks and their. Sorry, pardon me. The ancient Greeks and a lot of their words that came along with their, society philosophy. A lot of it ends in cis. When it came to describe that stuff. So it's their fault. Don't blame us. It's just Greeks are way more, those ancient Greeks were way more intelligent than we are now. And they said that they wanted to end all their words in cis. So we will do the same.
Yeah. Next album is called Step Sis. It's called What Are You Doing, Step Sis? Just kidding. It's called Sepsis. Oh, I'm sick.
I actually didn't know there were so many words with cis. I'm learning a lot.
There's many. Oh, man. Many words. We'll never run out.
Yeah, we will never run out.
All right. Well, that is all I had for the camera. So thank you very much for joining me. It was a lovely conversation.
Thanks,
and
George.
I hope if anyone's still around, say Stepsis in the comments. So
you're a fantastic interviewer, George.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, and, thanks for listening to the music and giving us your feedback. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you, and I am unworthy of that feedback.
No, you're very worthy, bro.
We're all worthy.
That was definitely one of my favorite interviews of the entire album cycle so far.
As an American citizen, I approve and salute your interview style.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay. We're out then. I'm going to stop recording now.
All right.
Yeah, stop recording. That's fine.